Hello and welcome back to another episode of this week's watches. I believe this is episode 150, which is crazy. Now do keep in mind that's not 150 consecutive weeks. There's also been the drop far longer than I've done drop videos. And there's some weeks where we've not done a drop or I've not done the drop video and I've still done the drop. So the real number of drops could be 200 plus. I just don't know, which is absolutely insane to think about, especially with the amount of watches. So thank you all very much for watching these videos. If this is your first one, welcome. We put new watches on the website every Saturday, 9:30 a.m. and there's probably around 100 watches currently on the website at any given moment, ranging from entry-level Seikos to vintage watches, a couple of £100, all the way up to Patek and everything in between. Now, as always, if you want to skip to a specific watch on the table, let's say you're only here to see this beautiful Omega Turler signed vintage watch, you can do so via the description. So down in the description, you will see a timestamp for that watch. It will take you directly to me talking about that watch and it will skip all the rambling. And there'll also be a link to the website. That's for every single watch you see here. Once you're there, you'll see all of the photos, the description, all of the details, specification, everything you could possibly want, including additional photos under the points of mention. Do keep in mind that's there because the main photos, the 9 photos on the website, are shot basically in a custom-built light box with high quality camera and great equipment. And then I also do photos in the natural light on the phone. So between all of the photos and this video, you can get a really accurate idea of the condition of the watch, how it actually looks, how it reacts to different lighting, because at the end of the day, without seeing a watch in person, it's very difficult to get that, and I think a lot of watch dealers, they lack in that department. You know, they're putting 1 or 2 or 3 photos out, very poor lighting or whatever it may be. So I try and offer you the plethora of options to build a big picture. So hopefully, I know a lot of you guys and girls appreciate that. So make sure you use the tools I'm putting there for you. Now, before we crack on to the 12 watches on the table, don't forget to give us a follow over on Instagram at Kibble Watches. We put all of the watches that are coming soon, so the ones that are not yet on the website. And as I speak, there's probably 30 or so watches that are not yet on the website. And we have a little highlights reel on our Instagram where you can see all of those watches. So click through those, have a look, you know, beat the website. If they're on that, they're available. So send me a message. And as I say, you miss this part because we limit it to 12 watches max in each drop, which means if I've got 30 watches, there's going to be some that are 2 or 3 weeks away. So, you know, why wait? So what's on wrist? I'm wearing my beautiful Longines Master collection. This is the newer release, the 38.5 with the Brigade numerals, sub-seconds, automatic. Is perfect. You know, I'm not a huge modern watch person. In my personal collection, it's mostly vintage. But this watch, as soon as I saw it, I knew I had to have it, and I was able to get one at retail at a pretty good price. Thank you to the guys. You're probably watching this. You know who you are. Greatly appreciated. Still being enjoyed. I don't envision it being sold anytime soon, but as always, it depends what comes in, what takes my fancy. I am definitely enjoying it, but it's maybe not a keeper forever. Some of the vintage pieces definitely are. So let's start with the Zenith on the table. This is a gorgeous Zenith El Primero Chronomaster C01 collective edition of only 50 pieces. Some of you may remember I did have this watch in stock a little while back, I think last year. And it was fully sealed, unused, and the gentleman who bought it enjoyed it for a little while, hardly wore it. It's just not blending in with his collection. So I've got it back and I'm selling it again. So any of you who missed out on it last time, now's your opportunity to pick it up, still in pretty much mint condition. So let's take a closer look at this one. So what a watch to begin this week's episode with, and you'll have to apologise, or take my apology, sorry, for the camera adjusting to the light. This is a white dial with white hands and indices, outer matched with black. So again, it's a lot of white and the camera can struggle sometimes to pick it up. Beautiful, beautiful Zenith El Primero. As I said, this is the Chronomaster C01 Collective Edition. Collective is a collectors group based out in the US. I believe they're international as well, but they're located in the US, and they've worked with quite a few brands to create these exclusive limited editions offered to their club members. And this is one from 2020. Specifically, this one's from January 2020 and limited to 50 pieces total, which I believe, I could be mistaken, but I believe it is one of the most limited edition modern Zeniths they have ever done, with only 50 pieces total. So yeah, really gorgeous, classic El Primero as you'd expect. Start with the top pusher, stop with the top pusher, and reset with the bottom pusher. The iconic stars, the counterweight on the chronograph seconds, You've got your running seconds over at 9 o'clock, and your chronograph counters at 3 and 6. Beautiful dial, beautiful contrast with the black, and this slightly creamy tone on the inside. The watch has been worn, but probably once or twice at most, and this guy who bought it looks after his watches in general. I've had pieces off him that are a year or two old that he's actually worn, and they look pretty much brand new. So this one, having worn it only a couple of times, it still looks brand new. Beautiful exhibition case back right there, showcasing the automatic Zenith El Primero caliber 4061. And I won't bore you with the reference. This one is a very long reference, but you can go check it out on the website. And you can see the limited edition number out of 50 there at the bottom. It comes paired on its original strap with its original deployant buckle. So this opens up like so. You'll have to forgive some of the stickers. They're starting to come off, obviously, because they're just sort of loose on there. But yes, hopefully the person who buys it will be wearing it, taking off all those stickers and throwing it straight on wrist. Now, as I say, this one's from January 2020. It does come with its full box and paperwork, plus 2 additional straps, which are still in their packaging. So this really is a great set, and I'm really actually glad to have it back around out of the packaging, because it was in this unopened sleeve, basically. And you couldn't really see the dial, you couldn't really see the watch, whereas now we actually get it in hand, we get to have a look at it. So I'm very excited by this, and I think you guys and girls are going to really appreciate it too. But let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go, rested against my 7-inch wrist. You can see perfect proportions as you'd expect with the Zenith El Primero. This is 38mm by 46.5mm lug to lug. 14mm on the thickness, which is surprisingly not that thick for a chronograph, and it actually wears really, really well, super comfortable. And 19mm on the lug width, so a little awkward, but there are plenty of options out there. So go check out this beautiful watch on the website today. From there over to a Rolex Explorer 2 black dial. This is a reference 16570, but this is a later solid end link, no holes case with the newer movement inside as well, and this is from circa 2006-2007. So let's take a closer look at this one. Next up, we have a super strong and crisp Rolex Explorer 2 16570, and this is the black dial from circa 2006-2007, as it's a Z serial that covers the 2 manufacturing years, so it could be either, and it has no box or paperwork, but it does come with its full bracelets, all links included. You can see the condition of this one is fantastic, and it's a later model, as you can tell with the fact it's not got drilled lug holes, and it has a solid end link, solid end links I should say. They're both obviously solid, making it much more robust arguably than earlier 16570s. And it's interesting that it covers the same reference, although they didn't change the reference, sorry, even though they made arguably such a big change that really does transform the watch. I always find it interesting that Rolex used to do that, whereas now any increment change at all, they pretty much change the reference to make it apparent that there is a change. As you can see, oyster bracelet. Again, this watch has been worn, it has been used as it should be, but we haven't had it polished, and we can do that on request. It would look really fresh after a polish if you so wish. But again, I like watches to have a little bit of wear, especially when you're buying pre-owned, but that's just me. Inside is an automatic Rolex caliber 3185, and as I say, you really can't go wrong with a watch like this. Its age puts it in the Luminova period, so there is no tritium, which I know for some people out there is a big plus, because you don't want anything potentially even slightly radioactive on your wrist. I understand that. This is Luminova, so perfectly good and ready to be enjoyed. Screw down crown at 3 o'clock. And as I say, condition of this one is the sort of winning point. Yes, it's not new old stock, it's worn, but it's a really strong case, really strong looks, nice bold bezel. Everything's still intact on there, as you can see. A beautiful example, ready to be worn and enjoyed, and priced so incredibly well. These are back down to reality finally. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. You can see super comfortable proportions, and really, really good looking, as you'd expect, at 40mm by 47mm lug to lug, only 11.5mm thick, and 20mm on the lug, so endless options if you want to swap this out. But as always with these Rolexes, the bracelets often do look the best. So go check this one out on the website today. From there, let's go over to a gorgeous Omega Speedmaster. This is the 40mm automatic with the racing dial, which is absolutely dynamic. It has this brushed finish, which in some lights looks almost black. In other lights, it goes this slate grey, and it's all contrasted beautifully by pops of yellow. I'm a big fan of this watch, so let's take a closer look at that one. Now onto an incredible Omega Speedmaster racing dial. This is the 40mm automatic, and as I said in the intro, that dial is incredibly dynamic, this sort of vertically grained slate almost, which in certain lights goes this really bright silver, and other lights almost goes black. It's super dynamic, super interesting, and contrasted beautifully by the pops of yellow throughout, and those subdials which give off a carbon fiber style texture, which is really, really attractive. As you'd expect with Speedmaster, you have your start, stop, and reset, crown at 3 o'clock, and it does have a date pusher over here on the case for the date. So the date doesn't have a quick set feature, that is the quick set, so a push date, and it comes with the little Omega tool in the box to do it as well. Comes on its Omega Speedmaster racing style bracelet with its big bold clasp, as you can see. Nice screw down case back, with the Speedmaster emblem right there. So inside is an automatic coaxial 3330 inside. I won't bore you with the reference, as always with modern Omegas. It's an incredibly long reference. You can go see that on the website if you so desire. And the watch is from August 2020 with its full box paperwork, all of its spare links, and it even comes with a Forstner bracelet as well. Under additional photos, you will see a couple of photos of it on that Forstner bracelet for reference, so you can see what both look like. But a really beautiful watch and great option for someone looking for a Speedmaster around the £3,000 price mark, because they're just getting harder and harder to find. And this stands out in the crowd of Speedmasters. You know, they make a lot of editions, and a lot of them kind of look similar, you know, ever so slight variations. This, in my opinion, really is evidently what it is, right? It feels like the modern version of a Schumacher, of the older Speedmasters. For those of you that don't know that reference, give it a check. They're really, really cool. But let's show this on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. You can see that dial working its magic. Just incredible. Really, really incredible. So what you're looking at right here is 40mm by 45.5mm lug to lug, 14.5mm thick, and 20mm on the lug. So endless options for this one. But between the two bracelets, I think you're pretty much set. So go check this one out on the website today. From there over to a brand I very rarely get, and when I do, they seem to fly off the shelf. This is an Anoldane, but not the typical Fumé dial, which I think most people are familiar with Anoldane. This is the Model 1 Precious Metal Rose Gold. Some of you remember I had the white gold dial. This is the rose gold dial of the same reference with 50 pieces total. Absolutely beautiful, so let's take a closer look at this one. And now onto an Anoldane. A lot of customers are always asking for this brand, but they come up very, very rarely because, one, their wait list is huge and they don't produce a huge amount of watches, so it takes quite a while to go through them. I think some of the models are boasting a 4 or 5 year wait list, and if I'm not mistaken, some might even be closed, which is bonkers. And obviously they're mainly known for their Fumé dials, whereas this isn't a Fumé dial. This is actually a watch they made in collaboration with the Wind Up Watch Shop, a limited edition where they did 3 different materials. You can read more about that online, but this is the red gold, and we had the white gold before, so you can see that dial is this beautiful red gold colour. Anoldane stated at 12 in the outer ring. Really beautiful thermaled hands, which are thermal to purple. Just contrasts lovely against the dial, and it's the Model 1, so you have this lovely case, really great proportions, which we'll talk about shortly. And as we flip it over, you're presented with the Wind Up Watch Shop logo, the limited edition out of 50, and all the other bits and bobs you expect. And inside is an automatic ETA 2824-2, and this one's from July 2021 with its box and paperwork. Its original strap and buckle is included, and right now it is on an Anoldane buckle and a very nice Molquin strap as well, which just suits the watch beautifully and looks absolutely fantastic. So this is definitely one to consider for those of you wanting an Anoldane but don't want to wait, and something to keep in mind when you go to their website, because I've had a few people point this out to me. They're presenting their watches not with the price not including VAT. So if you are within the UK and you buy one of those watches, keep in mind it's actually 20% more expensive than it appears on their website. Some brands do this. I really don't know why. It irritates the life out of me. Recommendation to those brands, please either put the price inclusive of VAT with excluding VAT next to it, as I know Fears do, for example, so that way both people in the UK and outside of the UK can see the price. It ends up leading to disappointment at checkout when all of a sudden it's 20% more expensive, because UK VAT is 20%. So keep that in mind when looking at prices. But anyway, let's show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Really, really great proportions. Great looking watch at 38mm by 46mm lug to lug. Only 11mm on the thickness and 18mm on the lugs. Quite small lug width for the case size, which creates this really nice taper of the watch. So go check it out on the website today. From there over to a German watch with the Zin. This is a 104 STSA Black, automatic on a strap, an absolute classic. If you are wanting to get into German watches, you want a dive watch, this is probably something that's going to be on your radar because for the price you really cannot go wrong. This is the Tudor Black Bay 58 of the German diver world, I would say. So let's take a closer look at that one. Next up, a Zin 104 on the strap. And what I absolutely love about this watch, if you look at 6 o'clock, let me just give it another wipe. Moving around smudges right there. At 6 o'clock you can see made in Germany. Absolutely fantastic. So this is the 104 reference 104.010 specifically, and it's from circa 2022 with its box and paperwork. Comes paired on its original Zin strap with a Zin signed buckle. These are very good straps. They last forever, but they can be quite difficult to wear in, so just keep that in mind. Obviously someone's already worn this, as you can see, but they can take a little while to loosen up to your wrist, but once they do, they're sort of those straps that are comfortable for life. As you can see, nice exhibition case back. That's a Solita SW220-1. So even the Germans are still using the Swiss with the movements in this one, just to keep the price down, which is completely reasonable, and it's also a workhorse movement. Just to put it in perspective, these are a smidge over £1,000 on the pre-owned market, so absolutely fantastic. Screwed down signed crown at 3 o'clock, nice rotating bezel, syringe style hands, and a day date with automatic stated for simplicity. Nice clean aesthetic, which I think they've absolutely nailed. So let's show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Something to keep in mind, they do quite long straps, so I'm one hole away from the end to fit my wrist. So if you have smaller wrists, you may need a different strap, so just keep that in mind. But anyway, here we go on wrist. This is 40mm by 47, by 47.5mm lug to lug, 11.5mm thick, and 20mm on the lug. So luckily, if you do need a short strap, the options are endless at 20mm. But go check out this beautiful watch on the website today. Let's switch it up and go over to some vintage. I've got two beautiful vintage watches on the table today. We're going to start with this one, which is a 1954 Omega Seamaster. This is a Turler signed dial, so this is back when they double stamped with certain retailers, and it's a bumper automatic in 34mm. Absolutely gorgeous with a gold cap. So let's take a closer look at this one. Now on something really beautiful and special. This is Omega Seamaster Turler signed, as you can see at 12 o'clock. Proudly printed on that dial, and this is a bumper automatic, so we'll talk about all of those things shortly, but this is a reference 2766-1. This is a gold capped case, so what that means is Omega made these cases with a thick layer of gold plating essentially, or capping over the steel or base metal. So it holds up a lot better than basic plating, but it is still a thick layer of gold at the end of the day, so not, you know, solid gold. This is a later crown, as you can see. The colour is slightly different. It looks worse in the photos and the video than it actually is in person. Something to keep in mind, as you use this crown more and more, it will fade in colour because, again, it's a plating. So it will end up looking more like the case itself over time, rather than, you know, keeping the old crown on there, which obviously looked the correct colour. It faded down with use, as in was just super soft and hard to use. So this is the better of two evils, really. So as we flip it around, you're presented with a stainless steel case back, plain, as you can see, and as we mentioned, there's a bumper automatic movement in here. It's the caliber 354. And what that means is it's an early iteration of automatic movements. So there's basically, the rotor is almost like a weight spinning round and hitting a pallet inside around here with two springs on each side, and as it hits it, it bounces around. So do keep that in mind. If you've never had a bumper automatic, you might want to come and check it out and feel it on the wrist, because it's one of those things where as you wear it, you can feel it hammering around. Some people don't like that. Personally, I think it's kind of cool. So yes. And this one's from circa 1954 with the most desirable dial, you know, really beautiful. cream dial, which is developing a lovely even patina. 12369 applied, almost Explorer as people call them. I think people still call these dials Explorer even though it has the 12. But yeah, really lovely thing, paired on a beautiful brown strap with a reproduction buckle, which is brushed. So do keep that in mind, that's not an original buckle, it is a reproduction. But let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Some people say these cases at 34mm are too small. I don't think a lot of those people have tried them on because they wear far bigger than 34. I'd say they're more in line with a 36mm. And they're absolutely so comfortable. So this is 34mm by 42mm lug to lug, only 10.5mm on the thickness and 18mm on the lug, so endless options for swapping this one out. So go check out this watch on the website today. From there over to something that I think a lot of people are not going to be paying attention to. So if you're out there, you like vintage, you like something that's a little bit more left field, this is something to consider. This is a 1967 Universal Geneve with a linen dial in 31mm, ultra thin, with the caliber 42 inside. It's super thin, thinnest watch on the table by far. I don't think anything comes close to it. And the reason I think a lot of people are going to be sleeping on it is because of the size. They're going to see 31mm and go, it's too small. You wait till you see it on wrist. This wears incredibly well. So let's take a closer look at this one. So now onto this very, very beautiful and special Universal Geneve with a linen dial. As we capture that texture, hopefully you can see how it looks. Absolutely incredible. Applied U logo with Universal Geneve stated proudly underneath, and simple indices with 2 hands. And as I said, incredibly thin. Hopefully you can see just how thin this watch is. We'll talk more about that once it's on wrist, but what you're looking at thinness wise is actually 6mm, incredibly thin. And this is a reference 842101, and inside is a manually wound Universal Geneve caliber 42, a super thin movement, as you'd imagine to fit in this case. Signed Universal Geneve crown, super straight lugs which help with the way the watch wears, and they're quite long lugs as well, long and wide, again making it wear really nicely on the wrist and looking quite unique as well, I would say. There's not a lot of watches that do it this way. Circa 1967, and amazingly it even has its original Universal Geneve buckle, which is really, really nice. So original buckle, original crown, and a nice signed case back with the reference and serial still visible, which is lovely. So yeah, not a huge amount more to say on this. If you're looking for something unique and vintage and less than £500 for a Universal Geneve, I think this is definitely something to pick up, especially as we are going to see Universal start to take off a little bit. We're already seeing it, to be honest, with the recent purchase by Breitling of the Universal Geneve brand. So I'm excited to see what they end up doing. But let's show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. You can see that wears incredibly well for 31mm, thanks to that very long and straight lug to lug length. So it is 31mm by 37.5mm lug to lug, only 6mm on the thickness. As I said, you can see that just disappears. The strap is almost thicker than the watch itself, which is just insane. And 16mm on the lug width, so plenty of strap options, black, brown. It's going to look good on pretty much anything, with the original buckle proudly right there as well. So go check out this watch on the website today. From there over to a Mido Ocean Star GMT. This is a limited edition for Hodinkee, a great watch, one I've actually owned personally a little while in the past. I think it's amazing. The proportions are great, the function is great, and it comes with 3 straps total. So it comes with this leather, a mesh, and a 2-piece NATO. So let's take a closer look at this one. So now on to Mido, and this is the Mido Automatic Ocean Star GMT limited edition for Hodinkee of 999 pieces. This is one I've owned in the personal collection in the past, and I'm always glad when I get another one. Absolutely gorgeous. You have the black dial, the iconic red GMT hand, the old style Mido logo. I don't know why they'd ever use a different logo. That logo, in my opinion, is perfect. A nice screw down Mido crown, again with the old logo, and as we flip it over, you're presented with the starfish symbol and all the signage you'd expect. Inside this is an automatic caliber 80 C07.661 by Movado. Mido, sorry, not Movado. Now, as they're owned by the Swatch Group, it is a derivative of other movements, basically an ETA of some sort. I won't bore you with a reference to this watch. You know, you can go see it on the website. As always, super long reference, 24-hour bezel, and a really nice 2-stitch leather strap with a Mido signed buckle. As I mentioned, it comes with 3 straps total. So you get this beautiful leather strap, which I think suits it the best. You get a mesh bracelet, which looks very cool as well, and a 2-piece NATO strap, which is also very, very comfortable. But this is the winner, in my opinion. The watch is from December 2022 with its box and paperwork. As I say, you really cannot go wrong with something like this. Under £1,000 for an automatic GMT from a brand that I think is massively underrated. But then again, I own quite a few vintage Midos and I love them. So I would say that. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Something to just quickly mention, on some of the photos, there was like a little mark. It looks like a little mark on the dial or the crystal. Around here, it was a little smudge on the crystal that for some reason I missed when I was doing the photography, and I've only noticed in there after when I've already done it all. So I apologise. It was just a smudge. It's not there anymore. So as you can see. Anyway, back to the watch. So this is 40.5mm by 47mm lug to lug. So nice compact size for the case size in general. 13.5mm thick, which isn't anything too drastic at all, especially for the case size. It just works overall, and 21mm on the lug, so a little awkward, but thankfully there are options with the fact that it comes with this brown, the mesh, and the 2-piece NATO, so ready to go. Go check it out on the website today. From there over to a Halios. These seem to be doing incredibly well. I've had a few over the years and they just seem to be getting more and more popular this side of the ocean here in the UK, which is great. So this is the Halios C4 4 Bahama Yellow 40mm automatic. So let's take a closer look at this one. Now on to the Halios C4 4 as it's called, and this is the Bahama Yellow. Absolutely cool and beautiful and really, really amazing. With the yellow, the contrast of the black in the hands and the indices with the white loom throughout. I think it works really nicely with the 12-hour rotating bezel, which is also loomed. Very, very nice attention to detail from Halios, but then again, it's what we sort of come to expect from the brand. Now, with the sun trying its best to start to come out in the UK, I think watches like this are going to start doing much better. I often find the really colourful watches end up being sold to me around November time, and then they end up start getting snatched up March, April time as the sun starts to come out, and it seems to be a cycle. So I would say if you buy a colourful watch, hang on to it, just keep it until the next year, because you'll find you gravitate towards it again. I have a yellow Christopher Ward, actually a very similar yellow to this, and I do the same. I wear it very rarely during the winter, and then as soon as summer comes, I can't seem to take it off. So yeah, it might be the case for you. Anyway, as we flip it over, you're presented with a nice screw-down case back, and inside is an automatic Sellita SW200, and the watch is from circa 2023 with its box and paperwork, and it comes on its rubber strap with its original Halios buckle. I've had a few people in the past say about these buckles that, are you sure that's original? Yes, it says Halios on the back rather than the front, and it's just a nice profile buckle, as you can see. So let's show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we are on my 7-inch wrist, a very good looking and comfortable watch, especially on this rubber strap. Some rubber straps are super stiff and horrible. These Halios ones, incredibly soft and supple. I mean, just look at that. It just rotates around your wrist perfectly. So what you're looking at here in terms of dimensions is 40mm by 46mm lug to lug, 12mm on the thickness and 20mm on the lug. So endless options for swapping out if you're not a fan of the black rubber. But I have to be honest, again, with the whole summer vibe thing I was talking about, I think it works. So go check it out on the website today. And now we're left with 3 Tag Heuers, some very, very cool pieces from a automatic chronometer, which we're going to start with. This is the SEL range, a watch I've had before. It's such a cool watch, especially for the price, especially for what you get. If you're after something a little bit left field, this is one to consider. So let's take a closer look at that one. Now on to a really, really cool and very much of its era in a great way. This is a 1990s Tag Heuer SEL chronometer, and this reference basically predates the modern day Link, the Tag Heuer Link that we all know, and some of us love, some of us really don't. It's quite a Marmite watch, as we would say in the UK. You either love it or you hate it. I would say the SEL is the same, but I think a lot more people like it than dislike it, because it has that cool 90s sort of funk to it that I think is starting to really make its way back. It seems a lot of things are very cyclical. I think anyone who's been maybe on the planet for a lot longer than I have is sitting there going, yeah, obviously we've seen it a million times, but for me, I'm starting to see it come around myself, so it's kind of cool. But anyway, this is the reference WG5111-P0. Inside is an automatic ETA caliber that they Tag Heuer chronometerized, if you want to call it that. They brought it up to chronometer spec when it was first released. Obviously, do not expect chronometer spec out of it now. The watch is probably closing in on its 30th birthday at some point, so yeah, it's not as youthful as it once was. Screw down crown at 3 o'clock with the Tag Heuer sign logo. Nice bezel, nice and easy to use, and the bracelet, of course, as you'd expect, really funky and definitely out there. To take out links, by the way, you basically take out the pin at the clasp and the links come apart, and then you can like basically rebuild it, if that makes sense. If you need links out, let me know if you're having trouble doing it, and before you maybe try it, have a look online, see if there's any guides out there, because what you don't want is this whole thing to fall apart and then have to basically rebuild it from scratch. So yeah, please don't do that. No box or paperwork with this one, but let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go, comfortably on my 7-inch wrist. This watch will fit up to a 7-inch wrist and obviously below, but not any bigger. We don't have any spare links and I am unable to find any at the moment. Tag Heuer might be able to help you, but I don't believe so. So it's a look of the draw. It's 38mm by 43mm lug to lug, 9.5mm on the thickness, and 20mm at the lugs tapering down. Obviously, this is not a traditional connection, so if you were to have a strap for it, you'd need to get one made in that sort of style. But yeah, that could look kind of cool as well. But go check this watch out on the website today. From there over to a Tag Heuer Professional. This is the white dial black bezel, and this one comes with its box and paper work from May 2002. So a great pickup. Let's take a closer look at this one. Now for another Tag Heuer, this time a very iconic tag, I would say, with the green and red Tag Heuer logo, the sort of bold numerals which illume, the Mercedes hand, the black bezel, the white dial. This is what I remember growing up as Tag Heuer, to be honest, and I'd be interested to know down in the comments what you remember, if you sort of remember this kind of stuff as well. Anyway, this is the reference WM111, inside is a quartz caliber, and this one's from May 2000 with its box and paperwork, which is nice, and it comes with all of its spare links as well. These are push pin links, so do keep that in mind, with a split pin. And you can see this is the really cool thing. It's like a brick bracelet and it follows along onto the clasp, so that looks almost seamless. Very nicely done by Tag Heuer back in the day. This one does have a very tight clasp, so do keep that in mind. It does open, you just have to sort of not be gentle with it. I would always rather a clasp be this tight than super loose, so I'm leaving it as is. Screw down case back, as I say, quartz movement inside, and we've had the battery changed before presenting it, so it's ready to go and be enjoyed. Not a huge amount more to say on this one. Screw down crown, date at 3 o'clock. If you're after that sort of retro feel from Tag Heuer, which it definitely seems to be coming back as well, this is one to definitely consider with the box and paperwork. It makes it very attractive as a proposition. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. This is one of the smaller cases, but again, it still wears incredibly well because everything's a bit bulkier. The bulkier bezel and everything, it just makes it wear bigger than the dimensions would lead you to believe. So it's 36.5mm by 44mm lug to lug, only 9mm on the thickness. That's including that thicker bezel, so again, really nice and thin for the design. And 20mm on the lugs, so endless options for straps if you want to swap this one out, and I think it would look quite cool on some leather strap options as well. So go check this one out on the website today. And last but by no means least, my favourite of the Tag Heuer is on the table, surprisingly, and it wouldn't have been just based on photos, but seen in the metal, I absolutely love it. This is the Tag Heuer the 1500 series or 1500 series with the granite dial in 40mm, so the biggest size on its original bracelet. Super comfortable. So let's take a closer look at this. So now on to the final Tag Heuer and the final watch in this week's drop. As I said in the intro, this is my favourite of the 3 tags I've shown you today, but it wouldn't have been based on photos. It's actually getting it in hand that makes me really like it. So this is the larger 40mm size with the funky bezel. You can see you've got the traditional Mercedes hands. I say traditional, obviously a lot of brands use them at this time, most iconically Rolex, but Tag Heuer seem to love them as well. And you have this granite dial, which has this sort of grainy effect to it, almost like concrete in some ways. Very cool and very unique, I would say. It sort of plays with the lights. I'd love to know down in the comments what you think of it. So this is the reference 959.706G, and inside is a quartz ESA 955.112, lots of long numbers, and it's from the circa 1990s. Screw down, signed crown at 3 o'clock, and it comes on its original bracelet, which is super comfortable. Nice Tag Heuer clasp as you'd expect, and signed screw down case back as well as you'd expect. No box or paperwork with this one, but as I say, the larger 40mm size. I would almost say this is like a maxi dial with the the lume plots. You know, they're nice and bold for the size, but that dial is definitely what makes it. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go again on my 7-inch wrist, a very good looking watch at 40 mil. So yes, the larger size, 40 mil by 47.5 mil lug to lug, only 9.5 mil on the thickness and 21 mil on the lug, so a little awkward, but there are options out there. And again, you've got the bracelet to enjoy it on regardless. So go check it out on the website today. So there you have it, guys and girls, 12 watches on the table. Let me know down in the description what's your favorite in this week's drop. I have to say, no surprise, the Turla signed Omega is my favorite in this week's drop, followed closely, very closely by this Zenith. I think it's beautiful. And on the wrist, it's absolutely incredible. So let me know down in the comments what's your favorite. And next week is looking like another incredible drop, already lined up with the 12 watches in it. Just having a look at it now, there's some great vintage. There's a lot of vintage actually in next week's drop, as well as some great little pickups like a 2013 Grand Seiko mechanical in 37mm, SBGR 051J for those of you interested. You'll see it on the coming soon on Instagram. So yeah, we'll see you all again next week. Take care and have a great week.